let's carry on. Now this video is going to be about logical operators. So let's see what that means. So we've got this value, and let's say we wanted to do something like if value, and okay, let's go here to an else statement, console.log do something. So let's say if you just wanted to do this, let's just, because right here what we're checking for is, let's just click run because it's going to say do something, because remember from last video, this is an empty string, it's falsy, so it's not gonna be true, so it's not gonna pass this if statement, so the else statement is gonna run. Okay, so imagine you don't want to do something if it's true, but you just want to do something if it's falsy. So we already kind of are equipped to do that because this does that. It's not going to do anything if it's true, and only when it's falsy is it going to do something. But there's actually a much better way to do this. Without the, because this is sort of needless right here, this thing here is empty and we only have it for the else statement. So we could check if value is falsy instead of checking if it's truthy. Because when you do an if statement, you're just checking if something is truthy. So what we want to do is we want to check if something is falsy. We could achieve that, but we can't actually check if something's falsy. What we can do is reverse the value of anything. And we do that with, let's do here. Now we get rid of this else statement. Now right now nothing's going to happen because it's still checking if it's truthy. And it's always going to check if it's truthy because that's what if statements do. But we could invert this value by using an exclamation point. So this exclamation point means not. And what it does is it just reverses the value of whatever's there. So again, if you go back to the expressions video, this value is an expression. It's going to get reduced to a single value. So in this case, it's going to get reduced to false. But we're not done yet. This is an expression. It's going to get reduced to a single value. So it's just going to get reduced to true because you're saying not false. And not false is true and not true is false. It just reverses it. So if we go back, not value, now it's going to do something. Now we're essentially checking if something's false. And if you put another one of these, you would check if it's true again. Nothing happens. If you put a third one, this still technically works. You would never want to do this, but this just gets reduced to true. Then this gets reduced to false. Then this gets reduced to true again. I've never actually seen anybody chain on a bunch of these. There is something known as doing two. When you say value, this is known as a bang bang. I didn't plan on explaining this, but it's kind of cool to know that if you wanted to make a variable equal to, let's just call this Boolean, and make it equal to whatever value is in a Boolean. So you can't just make this equal to value because value is an empty string. Value isn't a Boolean. But if you want to make this equal to whatever this was in a Boolean, you could put two of these. So the first one, so it's sort of weird how it does it. It's kind of like an if statement where you're just turning it, basically you got to get this and it turns into the false and then it turns into the true. So again, value is falsy. Just when you're storing it in a Boolean, you're not storing false, you're just storing the value. But if you wanted to store, what we want to get that Boolean value out of it, like it was being used in an if statement. And we could do that with the two exclamation points. So the first one, let's go back here. So this first one, Okay, so value gets reduced to false. Then you say not true, and then this gets turned to false again. So when you say, and I wouldn't spend too much time explaining this, but it's actually a really popular thing in JavaScript. It's known as bang bang, you're a Boolean. That's when you do these two exclamation points followed by the value, and you just turn this into a Boolean. So then if you console.log Boolean, you will just get the value of whatever this value variable is in a Boolean. So if you turn it into a string, Boolean will be equal to true because this string is truthy. See? So, okay, let's get rid of all that. Now let's do something if either two things are true. So you want to check an if statement. If this is true or this is true. Now we're kind of already prepared to do that with just an if else statement. An if else statement would do that. You could do it with an if else statement or an if else if statement, but there would be some repeated code, and you don't want that. So what we could do is there is an or operator in JavaScript. It looks like this, these two bars. So we could say if value or 0, console.log, at least one value is truthy. Let's see this. It's true. At least one of these values are truthy. 0 isn't truthy, but the value is. The value is truthy because it's not an empty string. Now if we try, it's just undefined. So let's do an else statement here that just lets us know both values are falsy. So it's true, both values are falsy. Then if we just put a number here that isn't 0, then it says at least one is truthy. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now we're going to look at and. And is like or, but it only does something if both things are true. So it's a bit more strict. So we could say if value, and the and looks like two of these. I think this is called an ampersand. Anyway, so if value and let's say 0. As a little challenge for you, I want you to guess which is this, what I have highlighted right now, is that truthy or falsy? If you guessed truthy, you'd be right because it's a non-empty string. So when something's a string, it's usually always truthy unless it has nothing inside it. And this has something inside it, so it's truthy. Let's try here. There's nothing to even give us feedback, so let's do this. At least one value is falsy. Whoops, I put that in the wrong place. This should be in the else statements, and this one should just say both values are truthy. Let's see what happens. At least one value is falsy, which is true because value is falsy. Let's do this. Both values are truthy. Yep, that's right. Put this into an empty string, and then it says at least one is falsy, and that's true. And again, if we just put the not, then it's going to be truthy again, because it just inverts whatever this is. This is falsy. This gets reduced to false. Then this whole thing gets reduced to true. And this here also gets reduced to true. And both these things are true. And then it runs this. Okay, so that's basically it for this video. That's all I wanted to cover.